Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are both grateful that you can join us for another week, and we're super excited. We are welcoming back Susan Barnes on with us today. She was on episode 114, where we talked about spirit art, and then episode 170, where we talked about Edgar Cayce and spirituality. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, definitely go back and check them out. They're amazing episodes. And so, welcome, Susan. We're excited for you to join us again today.
Well, I'm very glad to be back and talking to the two of you. So it's my pleasure.
Wonderful. So, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself if they didn't get to see one of these previous episodes?
Okay, well, I'm a retired communication professor. Um, in terms of mediumship, I've been doing mediumship for 20 years. I have credentials from the Spiritualist National Union, which I have a CSNU with them, which means that I spent an awful lot of time at the Arthur Findlay College, learning about mediumship and developing mediumship. And when I was there, I did all kinds of mediumship. I did everything from mental mediumship to trance mediumship to physical mediumship. So I became interested in physical mediumship, and I wrote a book. Yeah, I wrote a book on the topic. And right now, today, I also do lectures at the Edgar Cayce Center.
Wonderful. Sounds great. And so today we're actually going to dive into physical mediumship. So, um, we'll let you take it away and tell us about it.
You bet.
Yeah, physical mediumship I think, it's probably the most misunderstood of the different types of mediumship. We know that there's two basic types of mediumship. There's mental mediumship and there's physical mediumship. And under the category of mental mediumship comes trance. Now, trance is kind of a borderline between mental and physical because most people who do physical mediumship are in some kind of altered trance state. Now, physical medium, but not all the time, because physical mediumship, if you look back historically, um, goes back to the 1800s, and they did all kinds of things that weren't entranced necessarily. I mean, they were in an altered state, but they weren't like in a cabinet getting entranced or anything. They were doing things where they were doing slate writing and, of course, spirit art and slate writing, and all of these things didn't require you to sit in a cabinet. Now, I should probably go back a step and say that what is a cabinet? Uh, Most mediums, when they're working, they work in something called a cabinet. Now, the cabinet goes back again to the 1800s with the Davenport brothers, because the Davenport brothers created all of this phenomena. And what they did was, because they were working on a stage and lighting and all of that, they created a cabinet so that their mediumship energy was kind of contained in the cabinet. And from the cabinet, all these different phenomena would occur around the cabinet and in the space. So a lot of not everyone, everybody's different, but a lot of mediums work in something called a cabinet because the cabinet contains the energy, it kind of consolidates the energy, if that makes sense. It makes it kind of more in one place. And the way physical mediumship works on many levels is that the physical medium goes into an altered state, and their energy combines with spirit and divine energy, and between the two, they create a third substance called ectoplasma. Now, ectoplasma can be anything from a vapor, kind of a misty kind of thing, to actually a solid physical object, depending on the skills of the medium. Now, most physical mediums don't make physical objects. I mean, that's something, again, that happened in the 1800s and happened in the past. And we don't see that happening very often today. It does occur, but not very, very often. So when we talk about physical medium, there's all kinds of degrees of it, which range from precipitated paintings and slate writing and precipitation all the way to apports and creating physical objects out of nothing, to full materializations. So there's all these different degrees of it. To break it down, we do have a lot of people today who are working on precipitation, and we do have people that are doing precipitation, not the same way as the Bang sisters did in the 1800s, but they are working on images and they do appear. And they appear basically, they materialize or appear on the surface of the canvas. So they start with nothing. They put a few paint pigments and things around it, and then the image will materialize around it through their mediumship. Um, so that's one thing they do. There are mediums also that do now a lot of apports. Now, I guess, and a lot of people don't know what the word apport
I was
is.
just gonna say.
Apports are objects that materialize or dematerialize. An asport is when it dematerializes, an apport is when it materializes. So what happens is when the medium's working, usually some kind of vortex of energy is created somewhere. Um, and some mediums create it within their mouths. Sometimes it just happens in the ceiling or in the room, but a vortex is kind of created. And when you're working, a physical object will appear. Now, for me, I've had the physical objects drop out of the ceiling, and they just kind of drop. They're just kind of there. Someone like Michael Shane has a vortex in his mouth, or Bill Bolt had the same thing, where they use that vortex to create all kinds of objects. And we know they're not cheating because you couldn't swallow some of the things that come out of their mouth.
Wow.
Um, wow is right. I mean, Bill Bolt once had a arrowhead this big in his mouth that apported into his mouth. His mouth was taped, and when we went to take off the tape, he was like, "No, no, 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 no. Do it very slowly," because the arrowhead had actually come out of his mouth and pierced part of the tape in his mouth.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, but this one was so big, there was no way you could have swallowed it. In the case of Michael Shane will bring through hundreds of gemstones of varying sizes. I mean, some of them are very, very teeny. Some of them are much larger. Bill did the same thing. I have a number of gemstones about this big that he apported. And of course, some people look at the apports and say, well, you really don't want to sell them because they disappeared, they could also disappear. You know,
Yeah.
which is a really strong possibility of these things happening. But yeah, usually the apports, you don't want to sell them, you want to keep them, no matter
Right.
how much you think the gemstone is worth. But
So is this something then that you're calling in, or is this just something that you sort of make appear like for you when you've had things fall out of the ceiling? Can you explain that a little bit?
well, I think Michael Shane really works on it and has developed the skill of creating that vortex in his mouth. In my case, it just happened. Yeah, I was doing a seance, I was in a seance situation, and it just started to happen.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, but maybe my friends said to me that it might have happened because they were saying to me before the seance, let's have some apports or let's do an apport. So they may have nudged it along a little bit to do it. And I really think that about a week prior to doing this seance, unfortunately, Bill Bolt had passed away, and he was a really good physical medium. So I think his energy really came in and helped. And the reason why I say that is because some of the objects that came through, I could relate to him. And finally, what I did to him, these apports started coming in a series of days. And finally, on the final day, I told him what I wanted. I said to him, I said, okay, I was in a seance with you, and you apported 12 rings, ladies' rings, beautiful rings, nice rings, 12 rings, and there were 13 women in the room. I was number 13 and didn't get a ring. So I said to the spirit world, I said, so Bill, if you're really with me, give me a ring. He did. But the ring he gave me was a kid's ring. It was a plastic kid's ring. Have no idea where you could find this thing. A plastic ring that had popped up. It was a round band, had popped up, and it was an angel.
Oh.
And when you pressed a button on the ring, the angel lit up.
Oh.
So that was the ring he sent me, but I knew that it was real because I had asked for it and it came. But although normally no, I mean I just have to wait and see what spirit brings is what it basically boils down to.
Right.
Um, a lot some media I don't really work on it the way other people do. I'm sorry, other people do because I don't sit for hours and hours and hours and hours every day trying to develop this skill, which you would need to do to really do it on a bigger level. I sit when I can and sit for people, and I don't have a circle. The other way that physical mediums develop is that the medium gets a circle of people that meet with them regularly, like every week or every 2 weeks, and sit with them. And what the sitters have to do is the sitters will give their energy, they direct their energy towards the medium so that when these events are happening, the mediums are pulling energy from people in the room, from the participants in the circles that they go to. So the participants you can actually feel sometimes a pulling in your solar plexus area of the energy, your energy going to the medium that they're pulling out of you, that they're using when they're doing this kind of work.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So
Good.
that's
Very much.
you have questions?
No, I'm very interesting though. Very
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
so that's how you're supposed to develop physical mediumship. Some of these other practices you can develop on your own. For example, for precipitation, if you want to get the images precipitated, what you do is you create they create precipitation boxes, and you sit with the box, and you can sit with the box by yourself. You don't need other people to be there with you to try to develop that. Um, but it is very much a participatory type of thing where you want to have the medium and you want to have a group of people around you. Now, if people want to try to develop physical mediumship, usually what they'll do is they will form a circle. They'll form a circle. Sometimes they switch off different people being the medium, but usually you should probably have one person or pick one person out of the group that's going to be the medium and try to develop that particular person with the skill. And sometimes, I mean, it takes years. I mean, some of the real more successful circles that they had in England, I mean, they would take 10 years before anything happened,
Wow.
you know. Um, Probably the most famous group that's most documented is called the Skull Experiment. And the Skull Experiment was going for a number of years, and they created all kinds of phenomena. They were able to apport a bird from one room to the other.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, the objects that we get came from somewhere. I mean, they did exist in the world someplace, somewhere. So things you have to be careful when you're in the seance room. If you're going to a physical seance, you don't wear all of your jewelry because your jewelry could export off your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wouldn't want that. That's good to know.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's shiny and you don't want the shine or the glare from the jewelry, but mostly you don't want to wear it in there. The only thing you can wear in a seance is a wedding band or a ring that has something to do with a marriage or a wedding. Um,
Okay. Why
Yeah,
is
that
that? Why would that, just because that's a union that you have on this physical plane, or?
well, I think because of the spiritual significance of a marriage, that marriage relation, the bond of the marriage relationship, and how close, and how the spirit world views that, as a sacred, that's what I'm looking for. It's a sacred type of commitment. And other people may have sacred commitments, but nobody would know what they are. So that's one thing that we know is a sacred commitment. So you can wear wedding rings within the seance room.
Okay.
Well, it is interesting to know.
It is
Yeah.
interesting, and that makes sense of why you can't sell this stuff, is because if it came from somewhere, if all of a sudden it got pulled back, then that
Yeah,
wouldn't be good.
I wouldn't now. I have to say, I have I had a wonderful experience happen with Michael Shane where he goes around and he'll do all these apports and he will give everybody an apport with a message. So he gave me an apport and he gave a friend of mine an apport and he said to my friend, I'm giving you two apports. I'm giving one for you and one for somebody else, not telling him who. And of course, this was a good friend of mine. So he came to me and he was like, well, I was good. I was like, I don't need an apport. So I said, let me see it. Turned out that his apport was a match for my apport.
Oh
And
wow.
there were little stones. So I made a pair of earrings out of them.
Good for you.
Nice. That's awesome.
No,
That's
that's a
amazing.
nice thing. Yeah, everybody makes jewelry out of them. You can make rings and necklaces and earrings and all kinds of things out of the airports. That's not a problem. But I do keep it within my own personal possession, you know.
So when you are doing these apports, then is this something that you're focused on bringing forward from some other time and space, or is this just a surprise, whatever comes out?
Well, when I'm in a state trying to sit for physical mediumship, uh, I am not aware of anything going on in the room.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally unaware of it. I guess you can, as you said, it can set an intention of trying to do something, but you can never guarantee it, and you can never guarantee that a physical sitting is going to work. I mean, you really can't because you don't know. It's up to the spirit world.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
for example, if you are in a seance and you don't check all the people out and you don't know who's sitting there, and you have somebody sitting there that's a naysayer or very negative and very much against this kind of work, the seance might or not work.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
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 That
All from
does.
the same mind frame should be, yeah.
There for the same
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a disruptive energy that goes on, and also the other thing that's happened that's hindered some seances in some ways, is that if you're in a seance and you're sitting there and you've experimented with trance or experimented with things, and you think, oh, I'm going to go into a trance state, um, no, that's not good. That's not good. It takes the energy away from the medium, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to take the energy away from them in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
When you form a circle, it's got to be a compatible group of people who at least get along with each other. They don't have to be best friends, but they have to get along with each other,
Yeah.
uh, so that there's not dissension. Because if you had somebody had two people had an argument before they went into the seance room, that gives it a really bad energy, bad energy.
Mm.
So yeah, so that there's things like that. Now, where trance gets close to physical mediumship is going into a trance state. Now, this I do all the time. I do transfiguration pretty much consistently. And transfiguration is when it's kind of more like a vapor of ectoplasm, although there are pictures of me where the ectoplasm almost looks more solid, where the vapor of ectoplasm goes over my face. And in some pictures, I have no face at all. It's
Hmm.
just black screen. And in others, the face starts to change and morph into other people's faces and images. And my friends laugh when I get a beard.
I bet.
They laugh when a beard appears, so they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, beard," you know.
Yeah.
I've seen aliens appear. I've seen all kinds of things appear through transfiguration.
That's very cool.
So is that just pulling in that energy from that person or that being then when you're doing that?
Well, the energies, I mean, I'm not trying to bring a particular person that looks like somebody I mean, it does. Somebody from the room may recognize the faces, but I'm not directing myself towards a particular person. I'm out of it. I go totally into a blank slate, and I just try to let whatever's going to happen in front of my face happen. Um, and so sometimes the images are really fast. They're telling me sometimes they go boom, 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 boom. Sometimes they're slower. It all depends on what the spirit world wants to do.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it is not the truth.
But
Yeah.
transfiguration is something you can demonstrate and do with students as well. It's
Okay.
something that you can do. And I say that because, of course, I've done several workshops in programs in Lilydale on physical mediumship, and I have another one coming up in June. And at that one, we will do transfiguration with the students. And we will do cabinet work with them where they can sit in the cabinet and just feeling the energy of the cabinet and getting used to that energy and being able to see that energy around a medium and around a person, is helpful.
So with this cabinet, I just have to ask this question. Um, do you physically go into a cabinet or is this like something that you envision around yourself?
Okay. In my,
Have to
I'm
know.
laughing. I'm laughing because in my house in Lilydale, I have a physical box. It's a wooden cabinet. Here, I'm in Virginia Beach. Here, I have a shower tent.
Okay.
Okay.
Shower tents. We just get shower tents. And so that's enough to contain the space around the person. That's all you're trying to do is contain, keep the space. Or sometimes they put the screen down so you're in dark. Sometimes you open up the cabinet. It's to help the medium just to build up the energy so that they can do the physical types of work, is what it's really all about.
Is there a place in Lilydale? Because we were there once and I
Yeah.
sort of remember there was like one of the houses or something or places had kind of like a room or a cabinet in it where people used to go into. Is that correct? Or am I remembering?
Probably, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different people. I have that. And for some people, it's as simple as finding a little alcove because they're all Victorian homes. So they have little alcoves in them. So getting an alcove and putting a curtain over the front of it also acts as a cabinet. So you have a lot of different ways of doing it. And um, physical mediumship there has been really, was it under the table? I mean, people haven't really, it hasn't been publicly acknowledged. We're trying to get it publicly acknowledged now, but it's been kind of like people haven't really talked about it, but they've been doing it because mental mediumship is the main focus of Lilydale. Um, but there are a lot of people, and I mean, I know a lot of other people some other people now that do have kind of seance areas and cabinet areas, and some of them build them with curtains. Some of them don't go as far as I did, is build them with a physical box, wooden box that you can't move, or you just use a shower tent. It doesn't matter. Doesn't
And so,
matter.
so then the premise of the box then or the cabinet would be to contain your energy that you're going in with when you're talking to the spirit world or channeling through or however you want to put it, the spirit world, like that connection so that it just kind of takes everybody else's energy out.
What the idea mainly is for you to get your energy and the spirit energy coming down to you consolidated together,
Okay.
so that you can do your work. Now, when you're working, if you're doing this stuff, you're pulling also energy from the people in the room.
Okay. Okay.
into it. But the people in the room have nothing to do with the idea of the cabinet, because the cabinet is the medium and the energy between the medium and the spirit world, trying to build up enough strength so that it can create this third substance called ectoplasm.
Okay. I understand.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I was just it's
Trying to
interesting.
visualize it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to just see, how you can go into that space. And I would imagine that it's probably a darker space so that you take out some of those visuals of light and sound and things like that.
Well, that's the whole idea.
Okay.
Now, physical mediumship, a lot of it is done in the dark. Building up to ectoplasm and apports and all of that needs a darkened space because ectoplasma does not respond well to light. In fact, this is one of the issues with physical mediumship and a reason why a number of people who started it stopped, because the ectoplasma, if it's really thick ectoplasma, it's actually connected to the medium's body.
Hmm.
So there's like strands of energy that are connecting the ectoplasm to the medium's body. So for example, if a medium actually creates an object, an ectoplasm that can move around the room, and even trumpets and things moving around the room, you have to be careful because when it's moving around the room, if you touch it, it could jump back into the medium.
Okay.
And when it jumps back into the medium gets injured.
Oh,
Yeah. A number of mediums have gotten injured and burned. It's kind of like a burn type of sensation from people misusing ectoplasm. I know one medium in England was doing a seance, and although they tell everybody don't clap, don't make loud noises, don't do any of that, he started doing a seance and he started moving trumpets. Now trumpets move because there are thin ectoplasmic, what they call ectoplasmic rods. So part of the ectoplasm will go to the physical object and move it up and move it around the room. So he was moving trumpets and he went and he got a trumpet and the trumpet started moving around the room and people started going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And whoop, it snapped back into him and he got injured.
Wow.
mm,
That's
Of course, the
crazy.
seance is over. Yeah. So that's why you have to be very careful about the people you have in the seance room. They need to know the seance protocols. And some mediums have they have forms and stuff and do, a talk, for half an hour, 45 minutes before you go into the seance room, telling people what they can do and what they can't do
mm.
so that they know the proper protocols. But I mentioned the trumpet, and I should talk about trumpets. I don't have one here with me. You've probably seen the trumpets, right? Yeah, because that's kind of a symbol for mediums and physical mediums, is having that trumpet. And what the trumpet does is there's a number of things that the trumpet can do. The trumpet actually can obviously float around the room, as I said, but the trumpet also can project voices. We
Oh,
can get other phenomena. There's lots of phenomena with physical mediumship. I have just touched the surface of it. And direct voice is another one. And direct voice is when a voice, not the medium's voice, but a voice comes out of the trumpet and speaks.
hmm. That's
And
interesting.
yeah, the trumpet usually when the trumpet usually can move around the room and then speak, where you can hear that it's changing direction as it moves around the room. The voice is changing its direction and how you hear it. So yeah, direct voice is coming out of there. There are other mediums with direct voice that create something called a voice box. Now, a voice box is usually kind of on the side of a medium's neck. And a voice box, again, is created with ectoplasma. And they create a voice box, and from that voice box, voices can come through.
Hmm.
Leslie Flint is probably the most famous direct voice medium. where he actually brought through the voices of all kinds of loved ones for people. You know, they would sit in a room and he would bring through the voice of a husband or a wife or a loved one that was there. And there's lots, his recordings are online and available at different places. Now, he didn't have to work in the dark. You know, he didn't have to work in the dark like other mediums do. You know, the physical work totally in the dark. So that's what they call dark seances. Now, this gets into, okay, let's get into the issues, the ethical issue with physical mediumship. If you're in a dark seance, of course, is the issue of fraud. You know, because nobody can see anything. So there's lots of fraud. They claim a lot of fraud can go on. Now, a good physical medium will maybe do a combination of black and red light. So they'll be in the dark, create the phenomena, and then say, turn on the light and see the object. I'll give you an example. So they do a combination. But because it's in the dark, and a lot of it's in the dark, people say the medium's out of the cabinet, they're doing this, they're doing that, da, 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 da. You know, I mean, but I've been in situations where it would really have been impossible for the person to do that kind of stuff. You know, other times I have seen fraud. I mean, I have seen fraudulent stuff, but it's pretty kind of obvious if you really know understand physical mediumship. It's obvious that they're not real. But yeah, I'll give you an example of having to turn on the light. I was in a seance, and this is a really interesting story. It was a seance with Gary Mannion. Now, I was in seance, and the person sitting next to me's name was Bubba. And Bubba, about 3 weeks before the seance, he had lost his wallet. Now, he'd lost his wallet in one state, in Pennsylvania. No, he lost his wallet in Ohio and lived in Pennsylvania. So he was doing a seance with Michael Shane. And in the seance, he asked Michael Shane's guides about the wallet. And nothing really happened. A week later, he's in a seance with Gary Mannion. And Gary Mannion's guides all of a sudden said to Bubba, did you lose your wallet? And Bubba goes, yes, I did. And they made a crackling kind of sound. And then all this stuff came out of the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
And they said, okay, turn on the red light, because they have to turn on the red light to see what it was. They turned on the red light and they said, Bubba, go and look at it. And Bubba's like, oh, that's all my stuff. And I saw the money. I saw money. And he was like, his credit cards and driver's license, all that stuff, paper documents were on the floor there, all scattered around. So and Bubba was like, oh yeah, this is the stuff out of my wallet, but where's the wallet? So the guides go, okay, wait a minute, turn off the light. They turn off the light. We go into black in a few more minutes, and a little more crackling kinds of noise. And the next thing we know is thud. And they go, okay, turn on the light. So they turn on the light, and there's Bubba's wallet.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
It was, but people were able to ask in the seance, how come the wallet didn't come all in one piece? And the answer was the fact that the people who had found the wallet had taken stuff out, and it had separated all of the things from the wallet, which is why it didn't all come back as one piece and as one unit. So
that's interesting. Kind of cool.
Yes, very cool.
It is kind of cool.
Very
But then
cool.
they also asked, which was cool, they also said, because of the Apports, they also asked, well, what are these people going to think when they can't find the wallet? And so the guys just said, well, they're just going to think they lost it or misplaced it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it physically won't be in two places at a time. The physical wallet that they took was apported into the seance room and they no longer had.
Wow.
Interesting. So I wonder sometimes if things in my house go missing, if that's what happened.
Well, you know what? You have to, but then you have to watch it, because I also get apports, not only in the seance room, I've had apports throughout my life at various times. And I've also had things apport around my bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah, move around my bedroom that I didn't move around, that just did it. So, and I've heard other stories of other people that have had all kinds of like little tchotchkes and little stuff in their house move around and disappear. And that's what happens. Sometimes things will. I had my ring. I had a wedding ring that I misplaced. I mean, I thought I left it in a hotel room somewhere. I could not find it anywhere, and it was gone for over a year, and it appeared again.
Wow.
Wow.
But that's kind of like why, you put something someplace and then you go look for it. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours later or a day later, you go back and there it is sitting in the spot you thought it was.
That's why spirit has a sense of humor, then, is what you're saying.
Spirit has a sense of humor,
Absolutely.
and what I'm finding is that some people have some kind of physical mediumship capabilities and have no idea about it. I mean, I had no idea that I had any of them at all until I was sitting in what I thought was a trance state. And the medium from Arthur Finley College looked at me and said, "That's not trance, that's physical."
Oh, okay.
You know, and then I knew that what I was doing had something to do with physical rather than just trance.
Wow.
But
That's interesting. So in your book, does it explain some of this then for like the average person to understand kind of the stuff that you've been talking about physical mediumship and developing
yeah,
it potentially, or
yeah, that was the whole idea. The whole idea behind writing the book was I wanted to explain to people what physical mediumship was. So I give first a foundation in spiritualism because you do have to have a spiritual orientation in order to do this kind of work. And then I go through developing how do you develop it, through prayer and meditation, things like that. How do you set up a circle and do all those kinds of things? I talk about all the different types of phenomena that exist with it. And of course, I have examples of different classic mediums that have done this kind of work.
right? And
And
so is there a protocol when you're going in to do this physical mediumship? Like I would assume that you kind of have to be, not have been drinking or doing drugs, or is
oh,
there
you
is
can't.
there some of that stuff that if this is something that you were interested in doing, that there's some things that you would have to do around that?
Well, obviously, you can't do drugs. You can't do any alcohol. I will not do any, but I will not do any mediumship work when I've had a glass of wine or drinking alcohol, because it interferes with the energy. And what happens is that when you do those types of things, especially with drugs, I mean, this is why some people say they're possessed and all that kind of stuff, is because the drugs and all that attract negative types of entities. Um, you do have to be a spiritual person. When I say a spiritual person, you have to really, not because of my Cayce readings, you have to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. You have to be a decent person. You have to treat other people well. You have to have some spiritual orientation. You need to be prayerful and humble and all of this when you're going into this work. I mean, if you're going into this work because, oh, I'm going to be a big showman, not going to work. Not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense because both mom and I feel that way too. Like anytime that we've done readings or any kind of our healing with our Reiki and things like that, that's one thing that we're very like, sorry, I've had a glass of wine, not doing it for you, right? Like
That's
this
right.
thing that is serious business. And again, yeah, you're connecting to the spirit world, so you don't want any of that. Yeah, you want to be of sound mind and
Yeah, you do.
in your physical body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then you were
Excuse me.
saying, so does it go into some of that in the book? Like if you were to do a seance or something like that, like is that something people should be trying on a sort of a average person's level, or is that something that really you should be taught by somebody that does this physical mediumship?
What not to drink?
No, seances.
Um, the it is helpful to have a mentor, and in the past, a lot of the physical mediums and the good ones that I know did have mentors, which usually were other physical mediums that coached them and groomed them and brought them along. But you can develop without having someone there that is like a real strong physical medium mentor. You can just try to develop these skills on your own. And there are, I mean, there's pockets of people, that don't even talk about it around the United States that have circles and are creating phenomena and doing this kind of stuff, but they'll never talk about it. All you really need is a circle. A circle, you set your intention, um, work with a medium and decide what kind of circle you want and how, go about it. And there are some physical mediums that do some classes here and there and presentations. You can get a lot of information about it, of course, on the internet. But basically, you just have to sit.
Okay. And so you said you have some things coming up in Lilydale as far as a course that you're going to be doing in June, you said, correct?
Right.
Yeah, in June, we're doing a course called Discovering the Physical Medium in You. And so the whole idea that I have behind this particular one we're doing is to try to give people tools, have them experiment with different, have them experience the cabinet, experience transfiguration, learn how they're going to get a precipitation box if they come. Um, they can experiment with slate writing, and experiment with different things so that they can take it home and work on it themselves.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's very cool. So if
Yeah.
somebody was interested in that, where would they sign up for that?
We are promoting it in various Facebook groups and things on the internet. Lilydale has not gotten it together to put up their website yet, and I have no idea when they're going to, but it's June 16th, 17th, 18th, 3 days. It's 8 classes with one demonstration of what we're talking about. And they will be able to sign up at some point on the Lilydale site. So they have to go to lilydaleassembly.org and check for when the listing comes out.
Okay, I will include that in the show notes for everybody in case they're interested in doing that.
Yeah.
It's a very Mom and I had the opportunity to go to Lilydale with a friend of ours, and it was such a unique experience, just the energy that you can feel there. And unfortunately for us, it was raining when we went, but so
We
kind of
stayed.
killed the
We stayed.
labyrinth and some of those, but we stayed because whatever, you just get a raincoat. But the energy was so incredible that I think anybody that is into the spiritual realm would really love to come there and experience that. And there was
Yeah.
some very interesting stories about mediumship and pictures and all kinds of things.
Yeah. It's time for a return.
Yeah. Well, what we do is it's called a preseason conference because I do it the 3 days before Lilydale opens. And I do it the 3 days before it opens because if people want to, they can then stay for the opening of the Dale for their summer season.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So it kind of bridges both. But what's nice about it is that because we're pre-season, we kind of have the place to ourselves. It's not as crazy and it's quiet and the energy is really calm and peaceful. So it's very, very, very nice
It would be.
to do it that way. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be nice. Well, we definitely have to make a return visit there because
Yes.
it was amazing. Like it just, you could feel the energy when you went in, and all three of us girls were like, wow, this is so cool. So, yes. So can you tell, besides Lilydale, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, you can also find information about this conference at my website, which is www.spiritartgallery.net.
Perfect. Well, we will throw that in the show notes as well so that people can find you, and if they have questions or want
Yeah,
to
so the
sign
whole
up for this stuff.
I have the program of all the classes and that they're going to take with little descriptions of them up there on my website. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
fantastic. Well, it has been such a pleasure. I've learned so much.
Oh
I'm
my
sure
goodness.
you have.
Yes. Broaden our horizons, I'll say.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm gonna have to get the book
Oh, yeah.
and share it. And yeah, so thank you so much for being on with us today and returning with us, because we just love, you're just so knowledgeable and
Oh
have
my.
so much information, so much history, which really intrigues me as well. So I thought that's great. So thank you for that. And if you had a final thought to leave with all of our followers, what would it be?
I mean, I would tell people that if you have an opportunity to try to experience physical mediumship in any way, shape, or form, do it because it is unique and it is very different level of mediumship from mental mediumship.
Yeah, I will definitely try it. Why not?
And I,
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, and we really appreciate it. And um, yeah, it's,
thank you. Thank
Hope
you.
to see you down the road.
yes,
Okay, yes.
hopefully we'll see you in Lilydale.
We'll see you in the Dale.
Yes, and
Yes.
everyone else, we will see you on the next one.
You bet.